The sky above the broken moon was dark and silent. Smoke rose from the ground. Old battle machines lay twisted and burned. The air smelled of metal, ash, and death. Jake Rayner, a human soldier in full armor, walked slowly through the ruins. His boots made soft crunching sounds over broken glass and stone. He was alone. Jake's mission was to check for survivors. The battle between humans and the alien race called the Valari had ended a week ago. Now this place was just a graveyard. But orders were orders. Search and report. He moved carefully past the wreckage of a crashed Valari ship. Its metal sides were ripped open like paper. The ship had symbols on it, soft curves, glowing letters, clearly not human. As Jake passed it, he stopped suddenly. There it was, a soft sound, a cry. He froze. He heard it again. A small, weak cry, like a baby. His hand moved to his weapon, just in case. Then, with slow steps, he followed the sound, weaving through burnt trees and twisted metal beams. He reached the broken side of another ship, half buried under rubble. The cry came from inside. It was louder now. It wasn't just a baby's cry. It was filled with fear and hunger. Jake pushed aside a metal panel and shone his helmet light inside. His eyes widened. Inside was an alien woman. She looked badly hurt, sitting against the wall. Her silver skin was pale. Her long dark hair was messy, full of dust. In her arms was a small child no more than a few months old. The baby had soft purple skin and glowing teal eyes. Jake stared at the scene. The woman looked up at him, frightened. She pulled the child close, covering it with her thin arms. "Stay back," she whispered, her voice weak but sharp. Jake didn't move. He raised both his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said calmly. "I heard the baby crying." The baby looked at Jake and smiled. That shocked both of them. The alien woman gasped. Her child had never seen a human before. Her people were taught to fear them. But her baby was reaching out, tiny fingers toward Jake. Jake knelt slowly. "He's not afraid of me," he said softly. The woman didn't reply. She was breathing hard. Her eyes kept moving between her child and the human soldier. "What's your name?" Jake asked. "Lisha," she answered, still unsure if he was a threat. Jake nodded. "I'm Jake. Are you hurt?" "I'll manage," she said. But Jake could see the blood on her side. She was lying. "Your child needs help," Jake said, taking off his helmet. "And so do you." Lisha stayed quiet. Her baby was still smiling at Jake, now making soft, happy sounds. Jake opened a pouch on his belt and took out a small food pack. He slid it across the ground toward her. "Eat. It's safe." Lisha looked at the pack, then at her child's eyes. They were full of hope. Finally, with a shaking hand, she grabbed the pack and tore it open. The baby sucked on her finger as she fed herself slowly. She hadn't eaten in days. Jake sat down a few feet away. "I didn't expect to find anyone alive here," he said. "I didn't expect a human to care," she replied coldly. Jake looked down. "Not all humans are monsters." Lisha didn't answer. Her child was now calm, almost falling asleep in her arms. But Jake had questions. Why was the baby so drawn to him? Why did Lisha look at him like she remembered something? Suddenly a loud boom echoed in the distance. Jake looked up. That wasn't thunder. That was a ship's engine. Someone else was coming, and they might not be friendly. Lisha held her child close, even as her arms trembled from weakness. Her alien eyes, soft and silver, stayed locked on the human soldier. Jake didn't move. He just sat nearby, calm and silent, watching the child sleep. The moment felt peaceful, but Lisha's heart was racing. She didn't trust him. She couldn't trust him. Her people had taught her since childhood. Humans were dangerous, savage, cold, killers. That's what the stories said. Her sister had died in a human bombing. Her village had burned when Earth's warships came, and yet, this man, this soldier, had done nothing but offer help. Her baby, Kale, had smiled at him. She looked down at her son. He was resting now, warm in her arms. But his tiny hand still reached out in his sleep, toward the direction of the human. Why? Why would her baby feel safe with him? Jake opened a small med kit and pulled out a silver canister. He gently tossed it to her side. This can close wounds. Spray it over your side. She didn't touch it. I don't want your human tools. Jake sighed. Look, if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't be sitting here. Your child cried. I came to help. That's it. Leisha looked away. But she knew. She was running out of options. Her body was weakening. Her side hurt more every hour. If she passed out, her baby would die alone. The food helped, yes, but she wouldn't last long like this, and Jake knew it. He didn't pressure her. He just waited, calm, still, watching the wreckage around them. Finally, she grabbed the canister and sprayed it on her wound. It hissed, and she winced in pain. But after a few seconds, the bleeding stopped. Jake gave a small nod. That should hold you for now. Leisha said nothing. Her mind was heavy with thoughts. She hadn't told Jake the truth. Not yet. Not about the child. Not about who the father was. And worst of all, she didn't even know if Jake would believe her if she did tell him. A sharp noise echoed again in the distance, this time closer. A scanner drone, Valari Tech. Jake stood up fast. That's not human. Leisha's eyes widened. My people are searching. They'll kill me if they find me with you. Jake looked around. Then we need to move. Now. I can't run. I'm too weak, she said, holding Kale tight. Jake didn't hesitate. He walked over to her, knelt down and gently slid one arm under her knees, another around her back. What are you doing? She asked, stunned. Saving your life. She wanted to fight, to push him away. But her body gave up. Her head leaned against his shoulder. Jake carried her out of the wreckage, Kale sleeping between them. As they walked across the black sand, Leisha whispered, You're not like the others. Jake raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She looked into his eyes, scared but curious. I saw a human once, years ago. He was kind. He spared me. Didn't kill me when he had the chance. I never forgot his eyes. Jake stopped. What did he look like? He asked quietly. Leisha paused. He had a scar on his left cheek. Jake froze. He had that scar. A thin line, hidden under his helmet. Could it be? Before he could ask more, a bright light flashed behind them. The drone had found them. They were out of time. The drone's light scanned the area like a sharp eye from the sky. Jake pressed himself against a cracked metal wall, holding Leisha. Close. Her child Kale whimpered softly in her arms. Quiet, Jake whispered. He quickly tapped a button on his wrist device. A jamming pulse shot out, a soft blue wave. The drone's lights blinked, then turned off. It dropped from the air like a stone and crashed into the dirt. Leisha stared at him. You saved us again. Jake looked at her. We're not safe yet. He carried her deeper into the ruins, into a broken cargo bunker once used for weapons. The roof had holes, but the walls were thick enough to block scans. Inside, Jake laid Leisha on a soft blanket he carried in his pack. Kale curled up beside her, still tired and weak, but Jake's eyes focused on something else, the blood soaking through Leisha's dress. You said you were fine, Jake said quietly. Leisha looked away. I didn't want your help. Jake grabbed the med kit again. You're still bleeding. As he rolled up her side fabric, he saw the wound clearly. It wasn't fresh. It was deep, jagged, and glowing faintly blue. Jake frowned. That's not a normal wound. It's from a Valari weapon, Leisha said weakly. A punishment. They call it the slow blade. It doesn't kill right away. It drains you. Jake's hands paused. Why would your own people do that to you? She looked down at her child. Because I gave birth to him. Jake froze. Cale stirred in his sleep, his hand grabbing a piece of Jake's jacket. The human looked down at the small child, then back at Leisha. What do you mean? Leisha's voice cracked. Because Cale, he's not fully Valari. Jake's eyes narrowed. You mean? Yes, she whispered. Cale is half human. Jake sat back in shock. His mind raced. Leisha continued, tears now in her eyes. Years ago, during a raid, I was hiding in the woods. A human soldier found me. I was ready to die, but he let me go. He gave me water. He said nothing. Just kindness. Jake's heart pounded. That night, the burned village, the crying girl in the trees. He had never forgotten her. He touched the scar on his cheek. You remember his face? He asked. She nodded. I remember his scar. Jake didn't speak. He just looked at the child again. Those soft eyes. The strange warmth when he touched Jake's hand. Cale had smiled at him before anyone said a word. Could this really be his child? Jake reached into his belt and pulled out a small scanner. He waved it gently over Cale's body. The screen blinked. Human genetic markers detected. Jake stared at the results, then at Leisha. I think I'm his father. Leisha said nothing. She looked scared, not of Jake, but of what would happen next. You were punished for this? Jake asked, his voice cold with anger. Yes, she whispered. My people saw Cale as a shame. A mistake. They tried to take him. I ran. Jake looked out the broken wall of the bunker. There were more drones coming, more soldiers, Valari or human. He didn't know yet. But one thing was clear. Cale wasn't a mistake. He was proof. Proof that two enemies could make something beautiful, and Jake wasn't going to let anyone take him away, not now, not ever. The bunker was dark and quiet, but Jake's mind was racing. The scanner still glowed softly in his hand, showing the results. Human Valari hybrid. Genetic match, 98.4% J. Rayner. Jake stared at the screen. He didn't move. His breath slowed. Cale was his son. Leisha watched him, afraid of what he might say. Why didn't you try to find me? Jake asked. I didn't know who you were, she said softly. You wore a helmet. You disappeared after that night. I didn't even know your name. Jake looked at Cale again. The child was sleeping soundly, hand resting over a small piece of tech, a broken toy from the shipwreck. He looked peaceful, innocent. But something felt strange. Jake picked up his scanner again and ran it over Cale's body one more time. This time, the screen blinked twice. Genetic anomaly detected. Processing. Result. Unknown gene activity. Energy-based code embedded. What the hell? Jake muttered. What is it? Leisha asked, now sitting up, alarmed. Jake showed her the scanner. There's something in Cale's DNA that isn't just Valari, and isn't just human either. Leisha's eyes widened. They told stories of children like this. Mixed blood. Sometimes they carried something ancient, a forgotten gene from before our people separated. Jake frowned. You mean a third species? No, I mean what we both used to be, before war changed us, before fear made us different. Kyle stirred in his sleep. A strange glow came from his tiny chest, soft, pulsing light like a heartbeat. Jake leaned in, placing 2 fingers on Cale's arm. The glow responded. A warm pulse of energy traveled up Jake's hand, through his skin, and into his mind. For a brief second, Jake saw something. Not a vision, not a dream, but a memory. Cale, fully grown, standing between humans and Valari, stopping a war with nothing but his voice. The moment vanished in a flash. Jake pulled back, shaken. What did you see? Leisha asked. I don't know, Jake whispered. But I think Cale's not just a child. He's something more. Outside, footsteps echoed. Shadows moved beyond the broken wall. Jake grabbed his rifle and peeked outside. A Valari patrol was sweeping the area. 3 soldiers in light armor, scanning with glowing rods. Jake backed away. "We have company." Lisha stood up, swaying from weakness. "We can't let them find him." "They won't," Jake said firmly. "But we need a distraction." He looked down at Cale. Suddenly the child opened his eyes and stared directly at the bunker wall. His hands rose, and the metal wall behind them shifted, folding slowly like paper, closing over the entrance without a sound. Jake and Lisha both stared in shock. "He's just a baby," she whispered. Jake looked at her. "Not anymore." The patrol passed by. They didn't stop. They didn't hear. They didn't see. Kyle had protected them. Lisha fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. Jake sat beside her and gently held her hand. "No more running," he said. "We protect him. Together." She looked into his eyes, this time without fear. "Together," she whispered. But far above in orbit, a Valari high commander received the drone's final signal, and now he knew the child existed, and he would come for him. The cold metal of the bunker was silent again. But that silence didn't last long. Jake stood at the edge of the wall, watching the shadows move in the distance. He saw more lights, now brighter, faster, ships descending from the sky. "They found us," he said. Lisha held Cale close, her arms tight around his tiny body. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "They won't stop. Once the High Command knows, they'll come for him." Jake turned sharply. "Then we don't let them take him." He opened a hidden panel in the wall, an old escape route once used by smugglers. Dust fell as the rusted door creaked open. A narrow tunnel stretched out into darkness. "We go underground," Jake said. "I'll carry you both." "No," Lisha said firmly, stepping forward. "I walk. I'm weak, not broken." Jake looked at her, then nodded with quiet respect. Kyle's soft glow was back, faint but steady, like a heartbeat lighting the dark. They entered the tunnel. Above them, 6 Valari assault crafts touched down on the broken moon. Soldiers in black, armor poured out, weapons ready. In their lead stood a tall figure in blood-red robes, the Valari High Commander, Sovek Ral. He raised a clawed hand and said, "Find the child. Kill the human." Underground, Jake and Lisha moved quickly through the tunnels, which twisted like a maze beneath the surface. Cale was silent now, sensing danger. Jake suddenly stopped at a cross-section. "This doesn't make sense." Lisha looked confused. "What?" Jake turned on his wrist light, scanning the tunnel wall. He found a strange symbol carved into the metal, a circle with 2 stars. "I've seen this before," he said. "Old rebel markings. There might be a hidden shelter nearby." They turned left, following the symbols. Behind them, muffled blasts shook the walls. "Their sensors will find us soon," Lisha said. "We don't need long," Jake replied. "Just enough to get Cale to safety." They reached a rusted hatch and pushed it open. Inside was a small chamber, filled with broken crates, old supplies, and one working console. Jake approached the console. "If I can send a burst signal, maybe someone will hear us, an outpost, a smuggler ship, anyone." Lisha placed Cale on a padded crate and sat beside him, holding his small hand. Suddenly, Cale's eyes snapped open. A flash of light burst from his hand and struck the console. The screen came to life. Jake stepped back. "He did that on..." The screen alien text filled the display. Then a map appeared, showing a hidden dock not far from them, still active. "A ship," Jake shouted. "There's still one left here." But before they could move, the bunker shook again. From the far tunnel, heavy footsteps echoed. Sovek Ral had found the tunnel. He was coming. Jake picked up Kyle and helped Lisha stand. "Go," she whispered. "I'll hold them off." Jake shook his head. "We don't leave anyone behind." "No," she shouted. "You're the only one he trusts. the only one who can keep him alive. Tears filled her eyes. Promise me. Protect him. Jake's heart ached, but he nodded. I promise. He kissed her forehead, then ran toward the dock tunnel, Kyle in his arms, his light glowing stronger now, sensing what was being left behind. Behind them, Leisha stood firm in the tunnel, her last energy glowing in her hand. She turned to face the enemy and screamed in rage. Jake ran through the tunnel, holding Kale close to his chest. His boots pounded the metal floor as the air grew warmer, filled with the hum of old engines. Behind him, the walls shook. The sounds of laser fire echoed from far behind, where Leisha had stayed behind to protect them. He wanted to turn back. He wanted to fight beside her. But he had made a promise. And Kale was his son. Hold on, kid. Jake whispered, voice shaking. We're almost there. Ahead, a large blast door stood open, revealing a hidden dock. In the middle was an old scout ship, dusty but intact, lights flickering as it powered on. Somehow Kale had activated it earlier with just a touch. Jake placed Kale inside the cockpit seat and ran to the control panel. Come on, come on. Suddenly the screen lit up by itself. Kale's hand glowed again. This time the lights in the ship blinked to full power. Jake stared. You're doing this? Kale looked at him, then placed his tiny hand on the console. His eyes glowed softly, and the ship's engines hummed to life, smoother than Jake had ever heard. But something more was happening. Kale was changing. The soft blue glow around him grew brighter, wrapping his small body in a halo of light. The ship's systems responded, even showing systems Jake had never seen before. Then came the sound Jake dreaded. Footsteps. The tunnel entrance burst open. Valari soldiers poured in, weapons drawn. At the center stood Sovek Ral, his red armor, gleaming, his voice like thunder. Give me the child, Sovek said. Jake aimed his rifle. You're not touching him. Sovek smiled. You think that weapon will stop me? Kale looked at Sovek. Then, slowly, he stood up on the seat. His glow grew brighter, no longer blue but now turning white gold, lighting up the entire dock. Everyone froze. Kyle raised both hands. The metal around the tunnel melted, closing off the enemy's path. The soldiers screamed, backing away, trying to shoot, but their weapons fizzled in their hands. Then Kale spoke. His voice was soft, but it echoed. No more death. Even Sovek froze. This wasn't just a child. This was something greater. Jake stood in silence, watching as the air around Kale shimmered like stars. He's not a weapon, Jake whispered. He's a message. Kyle looked up at him. You must fly now, father. Jake blinked. Did you just? Kale nodded. Mother is waiting. Jake grabbed the pilot seat, still stunned, but started the launch sequence. The ship's engines roared. The roof panels above opened, revealing the stars. Kale looked down one last time at the tunnel, where his mother had stayed behind. A tear rolled down his cheek, glowing with light. As the ship launched into the sky, a wave of energy pulsed from Kale, spreading across the broken moon. The Valari soldiers were knocked to the ground, but unharmed. Their weapons were fried. Their ships disabled. Sovek fell to his knees, staring up at the rising ship, shocked and powerless. Jake held Kale tightly as they rose through the atmosphere. What are you? Jake whispered. Kale rested his head against Jake's chest. I'm Hope. The small scout ship flew silently through space, leaving behind the broken moon. Inside, Jake sat in the pilot seat, staring ahead. But his heart was heavy. Leisha was gone. She had stayed behind so Kale could live. Jake looked over at the child, sitting quietly beside him. Kale's glow had faded, but something in his eyes was different now. Deeper. Wiser. Do you understand what you did back there? Jake asked. Kale nodded slowly. She gave me time, so I could be more than a memory. Jake closed his eyes. You're still just a kid. Kyle looked up at him. Maybe, but the future listens to children. Jake didn't fully understand his words, but he felt them. He turned his attention to the ship's scanner. Multiple alerts were blinking, transmissions from both Earth Command and the Valari High Council. They had picked up Kale's energy, pulse. Now everyone knew. They're coming, Jake said quietly. Both sides. Kale didn't look scared. He looked calm. Then we don't run. Jake blinked. What? Kale placed a small hand on the comm panel. I want them to see. Me, Kale said. I want them to listen. Jake hesitated, then nodded. He activated the long-range broadcast. Across both galaxies, two great forces, humans and Valari, received a single transmission, a live feed. A child, glowing softly, standing beside a human soldier. Kyle spoke gently in both human English and ancient Valari. You fought each other for so long you forgot what peace looks like. I am both of you. I carry your fear, your anger, but also your love. My mother was Valari. My father is human. You called them enemies. I call them home. Stop fighting, or you will lose everything. Millions watched in silence. Leaders stared, stunned. Soldiers dropped their weapons. The child's words didn't just travel through screens. They reached hearts. 2 weeks later, Jake stood on a lush green field. He looked out at hundreds of people, both humans and Valari, gathered peacefully under the open sky. Kyle stood in the center, holding a seed-shaped crystal given by both worlds. This was Unity Day, the first of its kind. Leisha's picture stood beside Kale, glowing with light. She dreamed of this, Jake said softly. Kale nodded. She lives in it. As the wind blew, Kale lifted the seed and planted it in the ground. A glowing tree began to grow, slowly but beautifully, its branches gold and silver, its leaves shining like stars. Jake knelt beside him. You've done something amazing. Kale leaned against his father. No. We did. Far above, orbiting satellites captured the signal. Kale's words now sent beyond the stars, and somewhere, in the dark of deep space, other civilizations listened. The boy who was born from war was now the first voice of peace.